Seris was always the girl who broke every rule, but when she becomes the Alpha King's 13th bride, she discovers a door none of the others dared even name. Opening it will unleash a curse that could doom the entire kingdom, but the law forbidding it is older and crueler than anyone admits. As her own blood turns against her, and the Alpha King is forced to choose between love and duty, Seris must decide, is she a weapon, a pawn, or the only one brave enough to shatter the cycle? What price would you pay to open the door no one else could see? But let me start from the beginning. Seris pressed the iron key into her palm until it hurt. Blood from last night's caning still stained her sleeve. She shivered. The court kept watching, silent and heavy. She didn't know why she was here. What awaited behind the 13th door? Was it death? Or something worse? Her knees ached. The bruises under her borrowed blue gown throbbed. Even standing, she felt small. Bare feet cold on stone, shoulders dwarfed by the shadow of the 13th door. The air was thick with the scent of roses, sweat, and iron. A jester's bell rattled, sharp and anxious, breaking the silence. But what was that sound? She didn't know. Lord Garrick's cane tapped the floor.
Kneel, girl. Don't make us wait.
Someone behind her snickered. Seris stared straight ahead, refusing to move. The key was heavy and cold in her hand. Its carved pattern scraped her skin. She almost dropped it. Wolf guards filed in, armor clinking, eyes hard. Captain Elaric barked a warning.
On your knees. Now.
Seris flinched. Every instinct screamed, bow, obey. But she gritted her teeth. Her pride tasted like copper. A pause. The crowd shifted. Boots echoed. The Alpha King entered. He wore black velvet, gold eyes steady as firelight. When he walked, nobles parted. No one dared meet his gaze. He stopped before her. The wolf guards surrounded them, iron crests shining. The court lowered their heads, but Seris wouldn't kneel. Her heart kicked against her ribs. The king's voice was low and calm.
You stand before the 13th door. No hand may turn that lock, but doom will answer.
Seris stared at his hand as he held it out, palm open. A faint scar curled across his wrist, the same twisted pattern cut into her key. Her breath caught. Why could she see it? Why did it match? But Garrick stepped forward, voice smooth.
Defiant to the last. Allow me, Majesty.
The jester edged away from Garrick, bells trembling.
Careful, Garrick. She's got teeth.
Garrick scowled. The court whispered. The king watched her, unreadable. Seris forced herself to speak.
What if the law is wrong?
A sharp gasp rippled through the crowd. Even the guards shifted. The king's jaw flexed.
Then you alone must pay its price.
Her fingers tightened on the key. The corridor seemed to shrink. Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded.
I'll face it standing.
The king nodded once. He stepped aside, eyes never leaving her. The scar on his wrist drew her gaze again, so like the lines pressed into the ancient iron. Seris stepped forward. The key fit the lock. Iron bit her skin. She turned it. The 13th door clicked open, louder than thunder. The clang of the iron bell drowned out Seris's name. 12 empty chairs lined the dais. Blue silk faded, velvet green as moss, each one marked with a silver wolf head. The 13th was missing. She stood, spine aching, surrounded by 100 stares, and the copper stench of cold iron, drifting beneath rose petals, on the marble. The torchlight flickered along the marble columns, casting stained glass colours over the courtiers' jewels. Wolf howls echoed from somewhere unseen, making the nobles flinch and murmur. At the centre, Lord Garrick prowled in plum velvet, lips curled as if tasting something sour.
Speak her full name, let her oath ring clear for all to hear.
Alaric, the wolf guard captain, barked Seris's name across the hall. Courtiers straightened, their silk and velvet rasping. The 12 empty bride's chairs gaped at her, accusing. King Roran sat sentry at the throne's summit, his gold eyes unreadable beneath thick black brows. The new scar, a rose carved over his heart, peeked from his ceremonial green. Next to him, librarian Edlin clutched a scroll so hard his knuckles yellowed. Seris's voice trembled as the echo bounced from wall to wall. The ancient vow waited on her tongue, words older than any throne, yet bitter as blood.
I, Seris of Northgate, do stand before these doors and swear.
The sentence fractured in the echo. Garrick's smile widened. His voice dripped contempt.
Slower, girl. The last bride at least remembered her lines. She didn't even get a grave.
A hiss of whispers lapped at her ankles. Someone in the crowd snickered. Humiliation burned inside her chest. She reached for the next words, hands shaking in green velvet cuffs.
Swear fealty, in law and in life, to the Alpha King, and all his doors.
Her voice faltered again. The marble echoed her hesitation, mocking, inhuman. She caught the wolf guards exchanging glances, uniform stiff, and eyes uncertain. The line about obeying all doors, all laws, hung like a stone about her neck. She wondered, not for the first time, how many before her had said the words, how many had vanished afterward. Garrick gestured for her to continue, not offering her a seat. His eyes swept the 12 empty chairs and returned to her with a sneer only she could see.
All doors, Seris. Everyone.
King Roran's voice rumbled low, each word measured and final.
The law is clear. Speak, or forfeit your right to remain.
She steadied herself. Her fingers clenched around nothing. No key this time, no shield. Only her voice.
Obey all doors, obey all laws, even those I do not understand.
The words scattered against the marble. No one moved. The law demands she speak now. But what secrets lie behind those closed doors? If you're eager to uncover her fate, subscribe and stay tuned for more. The jester's bells broke the tension. A stumble, a flurry of blue and gold as he tripped in front of her. His mask skittered across the tiles and landed at Seris's feet. Painted inside was a 13th door, teeth bared, half hidden by a spray of painted roses. He scrambled after it, whispering quickly.
Careful, my lady. Some doors bite more than others.
He winked, lips twitching, and the courtier's laughter shivered like glass. For an instant, Seris wanted to laugh too, a tiny, forbidden crack in the marble silence. She bent to pass the jester his mask, and his fingers brushed hers, cold, calloused, gone in a blink. Garrick's command snapped the room taut.
Stand. You are not granted a seat. Not yet.
The humiliation pressed heavier with every second. She straightened anyway, sharp chin raised. A lingering question gnawed at the back of her mind. What happened to the 12 brides before her? And what would they do if she spoke the truth and refused the oath? The echo of her voice in the marble did not fade. It sharpened until it sounded like someone else's. Alaric's boot scraped the floor. Edlin flinched as Garrick nodded to someone behind the throne. At that moment, the moonlight shifted, illuminating the half-finished vow hanging in the air, and the 13th door painted in the jester's mask at her feet. Someone moved behind the throne. The sound of a new key turning in a lock, a sound no living bride should ever hear. A line of torchlight bled across the cold stone. As the guard slammed the wooden door shut, iron bars scraped into place. Seris stood barefoot on the gritty floor, the silk hem of her green gown brushing dust. Her toes curled against the chill. It was not the cold that made her shiver, but the memory of eyes watching, hungry, expectant. In the hall, outside, footsteps faded. The scent of old roses clung to the air, almost drowned by the iron tang of locks. Wolf howls rolled somewhere in the dark above, too close for comfort. Seris pressed her back to the door and listened. Nothing moved, not even the scuttle of a mouse. But what if something was waiting just beyond her sight? She flexed her wrist. Pain prickled there, a wrongness, tender and new. In the moonlight leaking through the barred window, a mark surfaced on her pale skin, twisting lines, shifting like smoke, blooming into the shape of the 13th key she'd been forced to carry. Her breath came sharp. She dragged her thumb over the mark. It burned, then faded, then brightened again, changing shape with every heartbeat. It wasn't a bruise. It wasn't paint. It was hers. And it moved. She tried to wipe it away, hard, the roughness of her palm scraping over bone. The stone beneath her feet grounded her, cold, real, unyielding, but nothing else felt certain. Was she losing her mind, or was the mark trying to tell her something? The lock clanked. A shadow fell across the bars. Torchlight flickered against gold-threaded green. King Roran filled the doorway, broad-shouldered and unyielding as the stone itself. His eyes found her instantly, flicking from her face to her exposed wrist.
Show me.
She didn't move. The mark pulsed brighter, as if it heard him.
Now, Seris.
She raised her arm, fingers steady even as her insides coiled tight. His gaze narrowed at the mark. No surprise, only calculation, as if he'd expected this. He gripped one of the bars, knuckles whitening. The rose-shaped scar over his heart was visible through the split of his ceremonial robes. His other hand, large, scarless, dangled just out of reach from hers.
You will keep this hidden at all times. If anyone sees it, anyone, I will send you to the tower. There are no windows there.
Seris let the words settle. His voice was sanded smooth, but the threat was iron. She wondered, what did he really fear?
What is it? What does it mean?
He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at his own wrists, bare save for veins and old lines, and then at hers, the shifting curse between the bars.
There are questions you don't have permission to ask.
A silence bloomed, thicker than the stone between them. The faint howl of a wolf broke it. Roran's hand lingered at the bars. So close, Seris could feel the heat from his skin, even through the iron. For a heartbeat, she wondered if he'd reach for her, or pull away. He did neither. She gritted her teeth, forcing her feet flat against the cold floor, grounding herself. Stubbornness was its own kind of armor.
If you're so afraid of this, maybe you shouldn't have chosen me.
A line tightened at the corner of his mouth. The mask slipped, a flicker of something raw, almost wounded, then gone.
We do not choose. The law does.
A footstep sounded in the corridor, too light to be a guard's. The scent of parchment drifted past, mingling with the iron air. Roran straightened, spine rigid.
Remember what I said, for your own sake.
He stepped back, leaving only the imprint of his presence, and a question that gnawed like a secret too dangerous to speak. Seris pressed both hands to the stone beneath her, feeling its chill seep into her bones. The mark burned brighter still. Something in her had changed. The law had made sure of it. Outside, the howl rose again, joined by laughter, not joyous but cruel, echoing from somewhere deeper in the palace. She looked at her wrist, at the living key turning bright as moonlight. What had they done to her? And why did the king, with all his power, look just as afraid? Mist curled through the secluded palace garden, painting the dew-covered marble bench with a trembling shimmer. The damp scent of earth clung to Seris's skin as she pressed her fingers to the lock on her chamber door, hairpin tight between knuckles. The velvet of her gown dragged against stone. She kept to the edge of torchlight, steps quick and silent. The corridor gave way to open air. Here the roses thickened, wild and hungry. Somewhere in the hush, wolf fur left a thread of musky scent, and Seris followed it, every muscle taut. She didn't know what she was chasing, only that she had to find out. A faint click. The door gave. Pale dawn spilled over her wrist, catching on the shifting mark, bruised, swollen, jagged now with new red. She shoved her sleeve down. In the garden, voices whispered. She pressed behind a rosebush, thorns snagging gold trim. 2 wolf guards stood near the bench, hoods up against the morning chill.
You saw the blood last time. She's too bold for her own good.
The law's older than Garrick or the king. Any bride who opens that door, if she steps past, curse or no, what waits is worse than death.
Ceres' pulse thudded low and slow. She strained to catch more.
Don't say that here. The walls have ears. They say the old law was broken once before, years back before the king's scar.
The second guard shivered. A handful of rose petals fluttered down, sticking to wet stone.
They hush it up. I heard the one who broke it wasn't punished. Not properly. That's why the curse stays.
Alaric spat in the grass.
Shut your mouth. Someone hears you, you'll be in the ground by nightfall.
Ceres inhaled the scent of wet roses and dirt, fighting the urge to move. Her heartbeat matched the garden's quiet, a fragile, unnatural pause. She sensed the prickle of unseen eyes, too deliberate to be chance. She glanced up. Beyond the hedge, a broad-shouldered figure lingered in the mist, ceremonial green, gold accents dulled by dawn. Roran. He kept to the shadows, fists clenched so hard his knuckles whitened. He did not speak, only watched. Ceres's breath turned shallow. For a wild moment she wondered if he'd drag her back, or if he waited to see if she'd run. But she didn't run. Instead, she formed the question in her mind. Who broke the law before? And why was the story left to rot in whispers? The guards moved off, boots scraping over grass and marble. Seris let herself breathe. The mark on her wrist tingled. Not pain, but a warning. Then, from the thicket, a flash of white. A wolf pup, still clumsy with youth, tumbled into the clearing and licked dew from Ceres's outstretched palm. Its fur was soft as velvet, cold with moisture, nose pressed trustingly to her skin. She almost laughed. The wolf pup blinked up at her, blue eyes wide, mouth parted in a playful grin. A hiss of breath, somewhere behind the hedge. Ceres froze, not from the pup, but from what lurked just out of sight. Something was coming. She drew the wolf closer, body coiled and ready. The garden's hush shattered with a single sound. Heavy footsteps on wet marble. The musty scent of parchment and beeswax crowded the air as Ceres slipped behind the false bookcase. Her fingers brushed rough-hewn wood, splinters threatening beneath velvet skin. The door clicked shut behind her, sealing her in with the hush of ancient pages and flickering torchlight. The silence here was thick, broken only by the faint hum of fire chewing at wax. Her wrist throbbed beneath her sleeve, a reminder of the mark, its heat now ebbing and flaring in uneven beats. She didn't know why she was here, or what she was searching for. Was this place even safe? She ran her hand along a shelf. Dust clung to her palm, gritty and real. Books whispered as she moved them aside, the dry scrape of leather and parchment louder than her breathing. She scanned for anything out of place. A thin volume tumbled free, exposing a battered journal wedged behind a treatise on laws. On its cover, a crude drawing of a door ringed by 13 roses, edges smudged by sweat and fear. Ceres opened it to a page creased from too many rereads. The first lines, ragged and urgent, stared up at her.
Do not trust the king. If you are reading this, you are not the first.
She frowned. The next entry was a sketch, her door, but the roses had been slashed through. Notes scrawled in the margins. The law beyond the doors is not his to command. Was this written by a bride before her? She thumbed through page after page, warnings, symbols, a pressed violet brittle as ash. The air grew thick with questions she didn't dare voice. A sudden scuff of boots snapped her attention up. A shadow spilled across the threshold. Ceres snapped the book shut, spine digging into her side. Roran stepped in, his presence cold as the iron hinges. He glanced at her, then the journal, eyes unreadable under thick brows.
That book does not belong to you.
His voice was low, steady. Ceres met his gaze, spine straightening.
It seems none of your brides ever last long enough to claim it.
He didn't answer at once. Instead, he moved closer, boots echoing on the stone, the air between them thick with smoke and candle grease. His hand reached for the journal. When his fingers grazed hers, her skin buzzed with the contact, sharp, unwelcome, alive. She yanked the journal back. A flicker of pain crossed his face. Gone before she could name it. He let his arm drop.
Some memories are poison. Let 'em rot.
Why hide them if they're harmless?
But he hesitated, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them. His response was softer, but every word was chosen like a weapon.
You aren't the first to ask about the 13th.
He looked away. The scar over his heart caught the torchlight, raw and recent. She tucked the journal into her sash, voice cool as slate.
And I won't be the last to survive it.
A voice crackled from the stacks. Librarian Edlin, hunched with a feather duster clenched like a dagger.
Bride-shaped disasters, always in the West Wing. I just recatalogued those miseries.
He tripped over a pile of scrolls, cursing in a whisper about wolf fur and torn ledgers as he vanished into the gloom. Seris let the absurdity settle her nerves for a beat. She thumbed to another page. A heart drawn in ink, split down the middle, written beneath in spidery hand. If you find this, run from the 13th. She closed the book, jaw set, and turned to face Roran fully.
You fear what's written here, enough to try and take it from me. That means it matters.
A muscle in his jaw jumped. His voice dropped almost to a whisper.
It matters more than you know.
For a moment, neither moved. The torches hissed, wax pooling on stone. The scent of parchment and beeswax pressed in, thick, claustrophobic, real. Edlin's shuffling faded. Seris fixed her grip on the journal. She could surrender, for safety, for comfort. But the journal was a thread to every bride who'd vanished before her. She'd choose defiance, whatever the cost. She slipped past Roran, back rigid, and strode to the door. Her decision was made. Behind her, he remained silent. A king left alone with memories he could neither destroy nor defend. Seris pressed her palm to the journal, feeling the imprint of the door drawn on its battered cover. She didn't look back as she stepped into the corridor, her secrets clutched tight, her fate no longer in anyone's hands but her own. The stables pressed in, lantern light flickering across rough wood and gold-dusted straw. The musk of horses and wolf mingled thickly, prickling Seris's nose as she crouched behind a feed bin, her back pressed to the wall. Her dress was smeared with hay. Her palms scraped raw from the sprint through hidden corridors, but the battered journal was still clutched to her chest. Safe. A sharp clatter broke the hush. She stiffened. Hooves shifted in their stalls, harness buckles rattled, and for a moment, the only sound was her own pulse echoing in her ears. Then, a scuffle. Something small darted between her feet. It was the wolf pup, fur matted but eyes bright with mischief. Its jaws gripped a battered leather collar, the royal crest half shorn, metal scarred with deep gouges. The pup dropped it into her lap, then nosed insistently at her wrist, where the curse mark still throbbed faintly with borrowed power. Seris traced the ruined crest with her thumb, a strange heaviness settling in her chest. There was history here, pain, rebellion, and something that refused to break.
Is this yours? Or someone else's story you're carrying now?
The pup huffed, pawing at the journal, then wriggled beneath her arm as if demanding shelter. She let it burrow close. The warmth was real, and it ached. From the stable's far end, boot steps scraped straw. Seris's muscles locked. She looked up, just as Roran entered, his form too broad for the narrow lantern glow, cloak brushing dust from the beams. He looked at her, then at the pup tangled against her side, collar gleaming between them. For a moment, neither spoke. The distant clang of a horseshoe being nailed snapped the silence. At last, Roran knelt opposite her. Their knees nearly touched, separated only by the wolf and a scatter of grain. The musky scent of horse and wolf pressed close, wrapping them in a world apart from the palace's cold stone.
You're braver than you are wise. Slipping out with that.
He nodded at the journal. She met his gaze, chin raised.
And you're quieter than you are honest, following me?
A flicker at the edge of his mouth. Not quite a smile, but the closest she'd seen. The wolf pup pressed against Roran's boot. He hesitated, then rested a broad hand on its head, his thumb just brushing Seris's fingers where they met in the fur.
He brought me this. The collar? Was it meant for you?
Roran's brow knit. He studied the ruined crest, thumb tracing the scars left by claws.
No. It belonged to a prince, once. He broke a law, one never spoken inside these walls. His punishment was this form, a warning and a sentence.
His voice was quieter than before, almost lost beneath the distant ring of iron on hooves. Seris let her hand linger on the pup's back, feeling the shiver beneath his fur. Her own words tasted strange in her mouth.
Some cages are built from iron, others from secrets.
Roran's jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away. The pup licked her wrist, tongue hot against the skin where her mark burned.
There are worse prisons than stone walls.
The line hung between them, heavy as chains. For a moment, the world narrowed to the warmth of straw, the rough texture of fur, and the strange comfort of being seen for what she was. Wounded, but unhidden. The pup yawned, then rolled onto his back, paws flailing in the dust. The sight startled a laugh out of Seris, bright and unguarded. Roran looked at her, something raw flickering in his gold eyes. He almost smiled, just once. Then Seris scooped up the broken collar and pressed it into Roran's hand, fingers firm against his palm.
If you want to change a kingdom, start by freeing what it fears most.
A hoof stamped hard at the far stall. Seris jerked upright, the journal tight in her grasp. From the corridor, a figure moved, not one of the stable hands, but someone robed in plum velvet and silver fastenings. Lord Garrick. His gaze swept the straw, landing on the journal, the pup, the king, and finally on Seris. He smiled, cold, knowing.
What a charming little reunion. Shame secrets never stay safe in stables, my queen.
The journal shook in Seris's hands as Garrick stepped into the light. The torchlight stuttered across the corridor's rough stone, casting jagged shadows on Seris's hands. She pressed her palm against the 13th door's uncarved wood. Her mark, raw, swollen, painfully hot, pulsed in rhythm with the gold filigree burned into the battered wolf collar, cradled in her other arm. The air here tasted of cold iron and wilted rose petals, scent prickling beneath her skin, stirring old wounds. The pup squirmed in her elbow, snuffling at the collar. Tiny teeth worried the torn leather. Ordinary, but for the sigil. A rose with 13 petals, faded but unmistakable. She didn't know why, but something about this door felt wrong.
Names, locks, numbers, always power in what they count and what they hide.
Her words bounced off the stone. Behind her, Roran's footsteps approached, deliberate, measured. He stopped so close she felt the brush of his sleeve against her shoulder.
This corridor is forbidden for a reason.
He didn't reach for her, but she saw his hand curl, uncertain, as if to steady her and then think better of it. For a heartbeat, the flicker of torchlight caught on the new rose-shaped scar through his ceremonial green. It shone just above his heart.
You warned the others too? Or just me, since I actually opened it?
No answer at first. Roran's jaw worked, and Seris saw, just for an instant, his control falter. His voice, when it came, was rough at the edges.
No one else ever reached this far. Not truly.
She pressed the battered journal flat against the door, tracing the ring of roses inked on its last page. The riddle teased itself free from memory. 13 brides, 13 doors, 12 with locks, 1 with none. The one without a keyhole is older than the castle itself, older than law. Her mark burned brighter. She squinted at the door's surface. Worn, uncarved wood. No lock, no handle, no seam. Only a faint, reddish stain. Iron, and, in one corner, a set of scratches that matched the collar's sigil exactly.
Each vanished bride tried a different door, but the 13th, no keyhole. No opening from this side at all.
That's what kept them safe, for a time.
Tension coiled between them. He reached, hesitated, The space between his fingers and her wrist was a breath, no more. She didn't move. A sharp crunch broke the stillness. The pup abandoned the collar and now gnawed enthusiastically on Roran's boot, scraping tiny teeth against the polished leather. Seris bit back a laugh. Roran, not so lucky, let out a stifled grunt.
Maybe he has the right idea. If the law's toothless, chewing on it can't hurt.
Roran's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Almost a warning. His gaze dropped to her marked wrist.
Some doors stay closed for a reason. Even I.
He stopped. His voice trembled, barely audible.
I fear what waits on the other side.
A hush fell. The only sounds were the pup's wet chewing and distant echoes along the corridor. A wolf's howl, muffled by old stone. She pressed her palm harder to the sigil, feeling the faint heat of her skin, the roughness of the wood. A question gnawed at her. How could she open a door with no keyhole, no handle, no invitation? And why, when Roran had braved every other curse, did this ancient threshold twist fear even into him? The torch sputtered, flame flaring as if in warning. Her mark began to writhe, lines shifting beneath her skin, then stopped as though waiting for her answer.
So if I'm the 13th, what's the price of opening what was never meant to shut?
Roran's answer didn't come, nor did comfort. Only the weight of the law's shadow and the faint scratching of the pup's teeth, mouthing at secrets none of them could name. Something unseen clicked behind the door, sharp, final. Seris jerked back, heart drumming against ribs. The corridor froze in silence. Firelight coated the old banners and the lines of Roran's jaw in molten gold. Maps littered the broad oak desk, corners curling from too many nights pressed beneath his fists. The air was thick, parchment, scorched wood, a scent that clung to her tongue as Seris pushed the door shut behind her. He did not look up at first. The ring on his hand glinted as he clenched his fist, a metallic flare, a warning. Seris flattened her palm on the nearest map, sliding it aside until he met her gaze.
Do you ever tire of locking doors you refuse to open?
His eyes narrowed, a flicker of something sharp in their depths. The fire hissed as he dropped a log onto the embers.
Some doors must stay locked. That's the law.
The law is the excuse the guilty wear like perfume. I want the truth.
He stood, movements controlled but rigid. The warmth of the firelight caught his signet ring again as his knuckles whitened.
You think you're the first to demand answers? The last bride. She begged, too. The law chained her as it chains you.
But I'm not asking. I'm demanding. What is beyond the 13th door? And what does your scar have to do with it?
A muscle jumped in his jaw. The room felt smaller. The banners, the wolf-crested armor on a stand, all seemed to close in.
You want honesty? The 13th door is bound to the law that made me king. Break it, and I lose everything. Not just the crown. Myself.
He didn't raise his voice, but something in it cracked. A rawness, as if the words scraped him from the inside. The fire spat. Seris's throat felt tight. She reached for his hand. No excuse, no calculation. Her cool fingers brushed his knuckles, the ring hot from his skin. He flinched, then let her touch linger, just long enough for the heat to bite her palm.
You talk like the kingdom is only iron and blood, but you're still here, behind your doors. Why?
He hesitated. The gold eyes darted to her wrist, to the shifting mark beneath her sleeve.
Because the law is older than I am, older than any king. If I defy it...
He stopped. Seris arched a brow.
If you defy it, what? You'll turn into a wolf and bite the world in half? Or maybe, just maybe, you'll be free. That's what frightens you.
The corners of his mouth twitched. Against all logic, a laugh, hoarse, reluctant, escaped him.
You're impossible.
So, I've been told. Now, you can hide behind your maps and banners. Or you can help me break the law you pretend to hate.
He studied her, silent, the fire's glow catching the edges of his ring as his fist slowly unclenched.
If we break it, the door doesn't just open. It takes. That's all I'll say. Tonight.
For a moment, neither moved. Warmth from the hearth painted her skin, and his in copper. Seris let her hand linger, only pulling away when his breath shivered in the space between them. Somewhere beyond the study, wolf howls carried through the palace stone. Seris stared at the 13th key on the map, the old scar on his knuckles, and the way his mask had slipped for her. Just once. What would the door take if opened? And what if losing everything was the only way out? Flickering torchlight skimmed over the crowded village square, where laughter tangled with the raw sound of fiddles. The tang of roasted apples and wood smoke clung to the air, sweet and biting, curling under Seris's nose as she slipped through a knot of villagers with her head half bowed. Her green velvet gown stood out, but she wore it like armor, daring anyone to stop her. Someone pressed a cup into her hand. Warm cider sloshed over her knuckles. On the stage, a woman in a wolf mask howled, sending the crowd into shrieks of delight. Seris threaded deeper into the festival, drawn by something hot and restless in her chest. She paused at a stall where the apples blistered black over a spit, biting back a smile. She'd never seen the palace guards so drunk or the townsfolk so alive. The crowd parted as a fishwife roared a bawdy song. Seris lifted her cup, lips quirking. A shadow at her side, a tall man in a peasant's cloak, hood low over his eyes, voice pitched low.
Don't look so suspicious. I'm not here to drag you back.
He smelled faintly of wood smoke and something sharper, almost like the tang of iron. Seris's pulse snapped tight.
You're terrible at hiding. Try slouching more, and maybe lose the crown next time.
He did not smile, but the lines near his eyes eased.
You're enjoying yourself.
I'm learning. The law keeps them on their knees, but tonight, they're on their feet.
A burst of laughter crashed nearby. Someone toppled a barrel, cider flooding the cobbles. Roran stepped close enough that his shoulder pressed hers. The contact was accidental, or almost. She didn't move away. A daisy chain of children ran past, scattering petals like confetti. A girl in a patched dress stared up at Seris. In her small hands, she clutched a wooden wolf, painted grey, with a strange mark carved just above its paw, a 13th notch. The girl pressed it into Seris's palm, eyes solemn and wide. Seris curled her fingers around the carving, the wood warm from the child's grip. She tucked it into her sleeve as the crowd surged again. An old man launched into a tale of the 13th door. The crowd hushed.
The king can punish, but the door takes what it wants. Not even the wolf lord dares command it.
The words sent a shiver through the villagers, a fear deeper than any king's threat. Seris glanced at Roran. His jaw was tight. There was something raw in the way he watched the firelight play over the faces. She seized the moment. She challenged a burly merchant to a drinking contest, cider thick as syrup. She won, grinning through sticky lips as cheers went up. Roran, cornered by a fishwife with calloused hands, found himself in a wrestling match and lost spectacularly. His glare was flinty, his dignity bruised, but Seris laughed until her sides ached. They leaned against a barrel, breaths ragged. The festival was a blur around them. Fiddles, torches, the scent of apples charring. Roran's hand brushed hers, then stilled. Their fingers tangled. Just once, deliberate. No excuse.
You keep challenging the rules.
You keep letting me.
He studied her, gold eyes softening, the fire reflected in their depths. A hush fell as the storyteller spoke again.
If you hear scratching from behind the 13th door, run. It's not the king waiting.
The crowd shifted, uneasy. Seris felt the carved wolf, 13 marks, heavy in her sleeve. Music swelled. Roran's fingers twitched against her own. No one looked their way, but the space between their hands was charged, unspoken. She looked at him sideways, the scent of apples and smoke sharp in her lungs.
Are you afraid of it too?
His answer was lost as a child's shriek rang out. Laughter or warning, neither of them could tell. The festival spun on, joy painted over dread, 13th marks hidden in plain sight. The cold stone bit through Seris's slippers as she stepped into her chamber. Moonlight glared through the barred window, catching on torn pages scattered like fallen leaves. Every step summoned a papery rustle, sharp and raw in the hush. The air prickled with the scent of parchment and iron. A crime scene. She knelt, heart racing, and lifted a ribbon of battered leather, the journal's binding. Pages lay shredded across the velvet of her gown. Her secrets, gone, stolen. The door scraped open. Garrick entered, robe sleek and eyes narrowed. He scanned the chaos, lips twisting.
Quite the mess. I hope you aren't looking to me for sympathy, Lady Seris.
Seris straightened, fists clenched at her sides.
No sympathy needed, just the truth. You sent someone to take my journal.
Garrick's mouth curved, mocking.
You flatter me with conspiracies. Perhaps you misplaced it while prying in places you shouldn't.
I'm not the one who pries, but you are always close when secrets change hands.
She stepped closer, her skirt brushing over torn paper, each rustle a warning.
Careful. Accusing a counselor without proof is dangerous.
Proof? The guards on your payroll, the council votes counted for you, the way you watched me at the festival. Do you want me to keep going?
Garrick's glare sharpened, anger flickering in his pale blue eyes.
You overstep, girl. This kingdom runs on order, not the scribblings of her.
He cut off as a sharp growl sounded from under the broken chair. The wolf pup emerged, fur bristled, pawing frantically at stones along the wall. Its whining grew urgent. Heavy footsteps thundered outside. Roran strode in, jaw set, the gold in his stare cold as steel. He took in the scene, the ruined chamber, Garrick, Seris standing defiantly. He moved between them, close enough Seris felt the heat of his presence.
You were not summoned here, Garrick. Explain yourself.
Garrick drew himself up.
I came to investigate the disturbance.
No, you came to cover your tracks.
The accusation hung in the air. Garrick's hands tightened behind his back. Seris glanced at Roran, surprise flashing. He wasn't defending the counselor. He was siding with her. She rounded on Garrick, voice steady.
Whoever took that journal came through the wall, not the door. The guards' quarters are just behind it. You know every passage in this palace, don't you?
She pressed her palm to the stones, where the pup pawed. The panel shifted, scraping open. The rank smell of unwashed armor and stale sweat spilled out.
Only someone with power over the guards could order them to steal for him. Only someone desperate to hide what's inside that journal.
Garrick stepped back, mask slipping.
You think you're clever, but clever brides don't last long here.
Roran's voice dropped, rough with threat.
Your authority here is over, Garrick. Captain Alaric, escort Lord Garrick to his quarters. No contact with any guard until I command it.
Alaric appeared, armored boots clanking. Garrick glared, but offered no resistance as he was led away. The wolf pup pressed against Seris's ankle, trembling. For a moment the room was still, but for the soft rustle of pages beneath Seris's heel.
He'll try to destroy what's written before anyone can read it.
Roran's gaze met hers, fierce and unwavering.
He won't have the chance. Not if we get it first. I trust you, Seris. Show me what I've missed.
She looked down at the hidden passage, anger and triumph battling in her chest. She gathered the pup in her arms, squared her shoulders, and stepped through the opening. Torn pages crackled beneath her heel. The darkness ahead reeked of secrets and betrayal, but this time she would not walk it alone. Behind her, Roran followed, the thud of his boots erasing any doubt whose side he'd chosen. The 13th corridor pressed in around Seris, stones slick with dew and torchlights trembling gold. The air was heavy with the scent of cold iron and something sharper, blood. Each echo of her step met a growl of wind, trying to claw its way through the cracks beneath the shuddering door ahead. The mark on her wrist, the one that had burned, faded, then bloomed again after each new revelation, was crawling now. Tendrils of ink-black curse had crept to her elbow, and as she flexed her fingers, pain bit back. She pressed her back to the wall, feeling the cold through layers of velvet. Roran stood close, too close, the lines at his mouth deeper than she'd ever seen. His eyes found hers. Then the crimson seeping down her wrist, tracking to the hasty bandage she'd torn free.
You don't have to do this.
He was always so measured, but now his voice dragged rough, like stone over stone. She hated the worry in it.
Someone does. If you had a better plan, you'd have told me by now.
A flicker, almost a smile, then gone. He reached for her hand, but she twisted away. The wind scraped louder, slapping her hair across her cheek. The door let out a groan, almost a plea. She looked to the battered collar in her palm, the one pulled from the wolf pup, its 13th notch worn smooth. The journal's words ran in her mind, written by a woman whose fate was sealed behind these stones. The door yields to what it first took. Blood, not key. A price exacted, a curse unbound. She bit the inside of her cheek. The metallic tang of her own blood lingered on her tongue.
Seris, stop. You don't know.
She pressed her wounded wrist to the iron, the metal colder than a grave. Blood welled, sticky and warm, painting the ancient sigil crowning the door. The iron hissed, drinking it in. For a moment, everything was still. Then the curse on her skin surged, black veins spidering up her arm, racing toward her shoulder. She gasped, knees threatening to give out. The door jolted. Wind screamed through the widening gap, tearing at her gown, snatching strands of hair into her eyes. The torchlight guttered, dancing across the stone floor. The raw smell of fresh blood flooded the passage, drowning out even the iron. He grabbed her by the shoulders, pinning her upright. For a breath, their faces were inches apart, his gold eyes frantic, her own reflection caught in them, wild.
You could die.
Or break it. Isn't that why you brought me here?
His hands tightened. It might have been anger. It felt like fear.
I'm not your executioner.
You're not my rescuer, either.
For an instant, neither moved. The wind howled. The curse pulsed up into her shoulder, hot as liquid fire. She dragged in a shaky breath, tasting iron and something older, darker.
Seris, look at me.
She did. He didn't flinch. The door yawned wider, not swinging, but shoving itself open as if the palace itself was fighting to keep it closed. Dust spun in the torchlight. Somewhere inside, unseen gears protested, screaming metal against metal. Relief snapped through her in a single ragged laugh. It felt wrong. Her arm throbbed, the skin mottled, crawling. She wanted to scream, or run, or fall into his arms, but she didn't move.
If I'm wrong, blame me. Not the law. Not the wolves. Me.
He opened his mouth, then shut it. He let go. With one step, Seris pushed through the gap, cold stone biting her bare feet. The corridor behind her vanished in a maelstrom of wind and dust, and the curse, now burning at her throat, whispered its hunger. On the other side of the 13th door, darkness waited, breathing, ancient, and hungry for payment. She stepped forward, the iron slammed shut behind her. Stone pressed its frozen kiss through Seris's slippers as she descended. Each footstep echoed off damp walls, torchlight guttering in iron brackets, painting gold across ancient carvings. The air clung, iron heavy and sharp, with the memory of rose petals crushed underfoot. Roran walked behind her, boots scuffing. The mark on Seris's wrist had climbed, a ribbon of black twisting up her arm, now licking at the hollow above her heart beneath the velvet. They stopped. The spiral stairs spilled into a vaulted chamber, circular and vast, rings of carved wolf heads glaring from the walls. There, drifting at the chamber's heart, 12 figures in shrouds of pale silk. Not flesh, not quite memory, bridal veils drifted, whisper light brushing Seris's cheek with cold mist. Her skin prickled. One by one, the spectral brides turned to her. Their faces shimmered pale and blurry, mouths moving in silent warning. Then, voices, a chorus of whispers, layered, urgent.
Turn back, 13th. The law devours those who claim love here. We paid. You will pay. Leave while you are breathing.
The cold of the stone reached Seris's bones, but her spine remained iron. She took a step forward. The veils trailed over her arms, lacy and chill as frost.
Seris, please. This is enough. We go back.
His voice cracked, thin threads fraying at the edges. He reached for her arm, fingers brushing, then withdrawing as if burned by the mark spreading over her skin.
If I leave, all I prove is that I'm afraid of ghosts and secrets. I'd rather know the price than pay it blind.
He hesitated, jaw clenched, gold eyes flicking from her face to the swirling ghosts, then to the mark darkening across her heart.
The cost is never just yours. You don't see it yet.
The whispering from the brides sharpened. A spectral hand reached, not touching, but icy with warning.
Love is not pardon. Law is not mercy. 13 always breaks what 12 could not.
A flicker of defiance rose in Seris. Her pulse thudded against the curse's cold grip.
If the law is so fragile, maybe it deserves breaking.
For a breath, the chamber stilled. The mark on her chest burned, thread thin and searing. One bride, younger than the rest, with hair like wheat and eyes wide, sorrowful, drifted close. Her veil brushed Seris's jaw, cold as snow, but the sadness in her face was fierce. The youngest bride's whisper was softer, a melody almost lost among the warning.
13th, you are not the first to hope for mercy. I give you what I could not keep. Remember the song in the stone, and let it guide you.
Seris caught her breath. The echo of that blessing hummed inside her bones. Roran's hand hovered near hers, his restraint ragged, the space between them charged and trembling. Their faces nearly touched, the cold separating them as much as longing, but neither looked away. A pulse of icy wind raced through the chamber. The other brides began to fade. In their swirling veils, Seris glimpsed fragments. A ring snapped in two, a rose drowned in ink, a wolf's collar broken at the clasp. The torchlight shuddered, throwing one last image against the wall. The 13th door, marked not with a lock, but an open wound. As the mark on Seris's chest crept higher, a new question clawed at her. What did it mean to be the last bride? And what, exactly, had the first bride broken? A phantom hand grazed her wrist, and the air filled with a sound halfway between a lullaby and a warning. Flickering torchlight licked the ancient runes carved deep into the altar's cold stone. The scent of rose petals and fresh blood tangled in the thick air. Blue fire guttered in iron bowls, throwing warped shadows across Seris's trembling hands. The sting of the ceremonial dagger's hilt pressed into her palm, sticky, slick with old blood. Her wrist mark burned, spreading like frostbite, veins blackening, crawling toward her elbow. The curse was a clock now, and it was almost out of hours. A woman's voice, cold as iron bars at midnight, cut through the whispers. Not one of the veiled spectres, but sharper, more alive. The first bride, Roran's sister, stood before her, blue fire flickering through spectral gold in her braided hair. "You want freedom for them," she said, voice echoing against stone. "But the law is older than either of you. Only a king's blood can open the door. Only love can break the law." Seris couldn't look away. She caught Roran's shadow at the edge of the fire, fists clenched, jaw rigid, the scar over his heart angrier than she'd ever seen.
You want me to cut him. Isn't that why you dragged me here? I didn't drag anyone. The kingdom's curse is its own leash. But you, sister, what are you willing to lose?
The dagger's hilt pulsed in Seris's grip, sticking to her skin. She stared at Roran, his eyes unblinking, knuckles white. He stepped forward, slow as a death sentence. He offered his hand across the altar, fingers open, steady.
Do it. Take my blood. I don't care about the crown.
He tore his gaze away from the runes, meeting only her eyes.
I didn't come back for the crown.
His hand hovered, waiting. The kingdom pressed its weight on her chest, heavier than any iron chain. Her mark crept higher. The blue fire dimmed.
If I do this...
Her voice cracked. She forced it steady.
What do we lose?
The first bride moved nearer. Her face flickered, half memory, half warning.
Everything you cannot bear to give, your love, your name, your past, all must be paid. The law does not trade in mercy.
The dagger in Seris's hand shook. She saw the sticky film of blood on the hilt. Old, royal. Hers now too. Roran's wrist lay bare on the stone, veins throbbing, skin too pale in firelight. The curse split pain through her chest, sharp, final, like claws raking her heart. If she waited, she knew it would kill her, but if she acted, she didn't know what would remain. She pressed the dagger's edge to Roran's wrist. His breath caught, then steadied. She drew the blade across his skin. Blood welled bright and urgent, dappling the stone. He reached for her hand, guiding the dagger to her own wrist. His hold was gentle, but unyielding. Every part of her wanted to scream, to drop the blade, to run, but she couldn't. Her blood joined his, sticky and hot. It pooled on the altar, seeping into the ancient runes. The blue fire roared up, hungry, licking at their mingled sacrifice. The curse's mark blazed, veins spiderwebbed to her shoulder, pain blotting her vision. She heard the first bride's whisper, a promise or a curse she couldn't tell. The blue fire flared white, and Seris screamed. Blood smeared the altar's stone, fresh, metallic, sharp enough to sting Ceres's nose with every breath. Her knees slid on the sticky surface, runes beneath her flickering with sickly green light. Each heartbeat pumped the taste of copper into her mouth. She wondered, why did she feel nothing? Was she already losing herself? The question haunted her as she gripped the knife by its stained hilt. Her hand shook, but she pressed the blade into her own wrist. Skin split. Blood welled, hot and bright, running over the altar. She welcomed the pain. Anything to drown out the fear. Roran's hand caught hers. His grip was rigid, colder than the stone itself. He met her gaze. His voice was low, almost desperate.
Seris, there's still time to stop.
She shoved him off. Her voice was hoarse, defiant.
The only thing left is forward. Give me your hand.
She sliced his wrist, quick and merciless. His gasp cracked the silence. Their blood mingled on the altar, red on white seeping into the carved runes. The iron stink thickened, clinging to the back of her throat. The altar shook. Ghostly brides shrieked, their veils spinning into nothing. Above, the 13th door slammed shut. The sound was final, brutal. Dust rained from the ceiling, mixing with blood. Ceres's curse mark flared, agony climbing her arm and burrowing into her chest. She tried to draw breath, but the pain forced her down, cheek scraping stone. Her vision blurred to a tunnel of green and red. Roran doubled over, biting back a cry. His control shattered as the curse bit into him. He clutched his chest, the old scar over his heart searing into the shape of her vanished mark. She reached for him, but her hand was too heavy. The pain was an anchor, dragging her under.
Don't do this. You don't know what it will.
He broke off, choking. For once, his strength was gone. She felt it, her own mark vanishing, heat draining from her bones. The bond that had burned in her skin now pulled somewhere deeper, hollower. Her wrist was bare. She wanted to rejoice, but what filled her was emptiness. The curse was gone, but something else died with it. The fierce, stubborn fire that had let her fight. It was like a piece of herself had been cut away, a part she never wanted to lose, even if it hurt. She was free, but she was less. Roran slumped against the altar, his blood pooling under him. The new mark blazed on his chest. She crawled to him, rage and grief fighting in her throat.
I told you not to play martyr. You took it. You let me lose it. That was mine.
Her words sounded childish, but she meant every one. The mark was supposed to be her burden, her proof. Without it, she felt unmoored. He looked at her, face raw and open. His mask was gone.
You chose. I chose. The law doesn't win.
A silence fell. The chamber was empty. No ghosts, no warnings, Only blood and stone, and the weight of what they'd broken. The pup burst into the ring of runes, paws slipping in the mess. Its fur was matted, eyes huge and frantic. It nosed at Seris's cut, licking at the blood with wild determination, then turned on Roran, planting its feet atop his hand, as if defying the entire curse. It licked and whined, tail wagging so hard its whole body shook. Seris let out a broken sound, a laugh, maybe, or a sob.
If you're both dying, who's going to feed that ridiculous mutt?
The pup sneezed, then began to gnaw on the hem of her gown, trying to tug her upright, as if dragging her back to the world. She forced herself to sit, pain flickering in the hollow place where her mark had been. She grabbed Roran's wrist, pressing their wounds together. Her hand trembled.
Stay. I can't carry it alone. I don't even know who I am without it.
He didn't answer. Instead, his fingers squeezed hers, rough and sticky, grounding her. The wolf pup yipped, darting between them, refusing to be ignored. It pressed its body to the space where the altar met the floor, whining at something, scratching insistently at a seam between two stones. Seris's mouth twisted. Something glinted under the pup's paw, a scrap of parchment stained with blood. She reached for it, the emptiness in her chest growing sharper. Her sacrifice was real. Her defiance had cost her the mark that defined her, left her with nothing but her choices and scars. The pup's whines grew louder as she unfolded the paper, blood smearing the ink. Above, the 13th door remained shut, but below, something new had broken open. She read the first line, her voice barely above a whisper. It was her own handwriting. She hadn't written it. Dawn sunlight split through the stained glass, flooding the stone corridor in shards of rose and emerald. The warmth stung Seris's skin. Sudden, startling. She blinked, vision swimming between the pain of memory and the hush of the present. The corridor was empty. No laughter, no echoing footsteps. The line of brides' chairs, 13, always 13, was gone. Only the deep green velvet of her gown remained familiar. She dragged her palm along the cold stone, needing something solid to hold on to. A faded scent of rose petals lingered where the old wooden benches had once stood. The 13th door was gone. In its place, only pale mortar, rough and new, still dusted her fingers when she touched it. Her wrist was bare. No mark, nothing but skin, faintly warm where the sunlight found her.
Morning, Majesty. Or shall I say, Lawbreaker in Chief.
His voice rang out, too loud for this hush. The jester's motley flickered blue and gold as he sauntered closer, jingling faintly.
If you say it again, I'll make you eat that hat.
Promises, promises. The kingdom's safer with a little misrule, don't you think?
He dropped a wink, eyes sharp under the floppy brim. For once, Seris almost laughed. Her shoulder eased. The warmth on her face reminded her she was, impossibly, alive. But then a tap behind her. She turned. Roran stood in the streaked sunlight, one hand braced against the wall. He looked gaunt, almost hollow, but his eyes, gold and clear, fixed on her and didn't look away. Where the chain scar had bound his wrist, there was a rose now, petals inked into flesh. He didn't speak. He simply reached out, and she met his grip. His hand was hot, shaking a little, their fingers tangled, nothing ceremonial in it. The corridor outside buzzed with festival laughter, muted, distant. Somewhere, the villagers were singing. The taste of wood smoke drifted on the air. For the first time since her arrival, Seris heard no whispers behind doors. The silence was almost kind. Alaric limped down the corridor, armor scraped but intact.
Palace is secure. The chamber's sealed. Villagers say the curse is broken. Even Edlin's smiling, or that's what he claims.
Edlin shuffled in after, scroll clutched in both hands. He hovered, head ducked.
There will be questions, Lady Seris. The court, the law it was meant to protect us, not imprison.
Seris let her hand fall to her side, pulse racing for want of a mark that no longer bound her.
Protect or keep us weak and scared? Your law was a cage. I broke it. The kingdom survives.
Edlin fumbled for words. Roran's voice, rough from disuse, broke the lull.
The kingdom survives. But what of its queen?
Their gazes met, blunt honesty, no titles left to hide behind. Seris forced herself not to look away. The sunlight caught the edge of Roran's new scar, the rose blooming on his wrist instead of the old iron chain. Her throat tightened.
You lost the mark too. So what are we now? Who decides?
Roran's lips parted, then pressed flat. For a moment, Seris wondered if he'd speak at all.
Lawless, alive, yours, if you'll have me.
Joy and terror warred in her chest. She squeezed his hand, just once, before pulling away to face the corridor. Laughter erupted from the courtyard, raw and bright. But overhead, she glimpsed Lord Garrick, face unreadable in the coloured glass, watching from a high balcony. The sun climbed higher. Seris set her jaw. The kingdom was free, but nothing here was safe. The sound of armoured boots echoed behind her. Too many to count. Banners of deep green and gold whipped in the spring wind above the palace courtyard. The silk snapped and fluttered, carrying faint cheers from the villagers pressed between nobles in velvet and Wolfguard in polished iron. Stone beneath Seris's feet felt colder than she'd expected, solid, unyielding, as if daring her to flinch. At the centre, a dais draped in velvet. Her chest rose and fell, quick and sharp. Dawn sunlight spilled over the crowd, painting edges with fire. She kept her shoulders back, refusing to fidget as the court jester bounded to her side, bells chiming.
You nervous? I'd be. All these eyes. Some are hoping for a slip. Some just want to see if you'll bite.
She shot him a look, sharp as glass. The old laws had been broken, the 13th door sealed for good. But the eyes, Garrick's cold blue gaze, Captain Alaric's tense jaw, the nervous flicker of Edlin's parchment-thin hands. They waited to see who she would be, now that the mark was gone. Roran stood tall at her left, dressed in ceremonial green. His new scar peaked above the collar. A rose burned over his heart. The crowd's noise faded to a hush when he stepped forward. Silk banners snapped behind him, the only sound.
Kneel, if you choose. Or stand. The crown is yours, Seris. Let them see who you are.
Her voice did not tremble. She lifted her chin, slate-grey eyes sweeping the assembly.
I will stand. The old crown made queens kneel. This one won't.
A flicker of laughter rippled from the crowd's edge. Garrick's mouth twisted, but he said nothing. The velvet pillow was brought forth. Atop it, the battered crown, iron chased with gold, the same piece that had weighed on a dozen doomed brides before her. Before she could reach for it, a blur of grey fur leaped up, teeth catching the edge. The wolf pup, the cursed prince, now small and wild-eyed again, darted off with the crown lodged over his ears. The jester yelped, bells ringing as he chased the pup through a forest of nobles. Laughter shattered the tension, the sound rolling out like festival music. Seris's shoulders dropped. She almost smiled. She let the breeze catch her hair, let the smell of rose petals scattered on the steps mix with cold iron from the guard's armor. When the pup circled back, she crouched and took the crown gently from his jaws.
Loyalty comes in strange shapes, doesn't it? You'll be my first advisor. First rule, don't eat the regalia.
The crowd's laughter faded to eager silence. She placed the crown on her head, steady, unbowed. Roran turned, the lines in his face deep with something old and raw. For once, his voice cracked on the edges.
The law is broken. My loyalty is to you, not to it. Whatever comes next, we decide together.
She saw him, the real man, not the mask. The air between them shimmered with spring's breath and the promise of something unwritten. He stepped close. His hand cupped her cheek, rough and careful. She closed the distance, her lips finding his, not in secret, not in fear, but in full view of the kingdom. A roar of cheers and howls erupted, banners thrashing in the wind. Hope shimmered, sudden and impossible, above the stones and secrets. But even as joy crashed over her, Seris caught Garrick's eyes. Calculating, cold, unbowed in the crowd. The new law had been named. Who would dare to break it first? Flickering torchlight skimmed the stone of the palace balcony, gilding the velvet sleeve that Seris twisted between restless fingers. Far below, the muffled swell of festival laughter tangled with wolf howls, distant, wild, carrying promise instead of threat. A hint of wood smoke edged the air, cut with the sweetness of crushed rose petals, ground under too many dancers' boots. She didn't know why she felt watched, or why the shadows seemed to whisper her name. Seris did not hide her shiver as she pressed her palm to the railing, feeling the damp chill seep past the velvet and into her skin. Roran stood close beside her, his ceremonial green catching errant sparks of torchlight. The gold trim gleamed as he shifted, a silent promise of rank. But tonight, he looked younger, less carved from stone, his eyes shadowed and uncertain. The rose-shaped scar over his heart, just visible at the open edge of his robe, drew her gaze. She reached for it, brushing velvet aside with deliberate care, not asking permission. Velvet gave way to warmth. Her fingers traced the scar's outline, following the ridges where old pain had bloomed new.
You let me see it now.
He covered her hand with his, rough palm pressing velvet to skin. She felt his pulse, steady but not unchanging.
I used to think scars were for hiding. They remind me I survived.
Or remind you what you've lost.
He searched her face, serious, brow furrowing.
Both. But some losses are bargains I'd make again.
A wolf pup nosed out from the shadows, its fur muddied by festival dust. It pressed against Roran's boot, then tipped its snout skyward and howled, first a squeak, then a bolder cry. From the tree line, wolves answered, their song threading through festival music below. The softness of velvet beneath Seris's hand startled her. After so many nights of stone and iron, the texture was almost a comfort. For a beat, she watched Roran's face. Every edge softer, every wall pulled down. He caught her looking.
When I first opened that door, I thought the only thing waiting was a prison. But here you are.
And you. You open more than any lock.
She hesitated, then laid her palm flat over his scar, feeling the warmth, the living pulse beneath, a heart that had once belonged to Law alone.
Do you still fear what's behind the rules?
His voice dropped, softer than she'd ever heard.
Every day. But I'd rather break them with you than live safe behind them.
She grinned, sudden, crooked, real. The festival below erupted in a fresh round of laughter. Overhead, the wolf pup's howls were answered by dozens more, rising into a chorus that seemed to shake the rails beneath her hand. Seris's gaze dropped as metal scraped faintly at her feet. Tucked into a crack of stone was a ring of keys, heavy, strange, the largest worked into a rose. The teeth flashed crimson when she turned it in her palm. She looked at Roran. He didn't move, but his lips quirked, half question, half dare. Seris closed her fingers around the keyring. For the first time, the choice was hers.
I think it's my turn to decide what gets unlocked.
The wolf pup bumped her ankle, eager, eyes bright as the new moon. Behind them, the howling rose again, wilder, less alone. The keys weighed heavy in her hand. She smiled, daring the future to come for her. Then, without waiting, she stepped away from the rail, already searching for the next door waiting to open. Dawn sunlight spilled through stained glass, making the palace corridors shimmer with shifting green and gold. Seris walked alone, her steps quiet on stone, still cool at the edges, but warming where sunlight touched. She paused before the 13th door, sealed now, unmarked, its surface giving nothing away. Her hand hovered, then pressed against the wood. The faint scent of roses clung to her fingers. No pain, no mark flared beneath her skin. She let out a measured breath and shook her head once. remembering shackles and the bone-deep ache of the curse. Now, the weight was gone. The corridor was silent, except for the distant sound of banners stirring in the morning breeze. As she turned to leave, a scrap of parchment caught her eye. She crouched, brushing the stone, and slid the paper free. The wax seal was broken already. She read, the words soft in her thoughts. One law broken, one remains. A prickle ran across her shoulders. She glanced back at the door, then at her own hand. Her skin showed only the pale lines of old scars, none shaped like roses or curses. The memory of the jester's painted mask flickered, the way he'd grinned when all seemed lost, and how Roram's new scar had pulsed under her palm in the light. Footsteps echoed, light, quick. The jester himself appeared at the corridor's far end, bells chiming faintly as he leaned against the wall, eyes sharp but lips curled in a mock salute.
You know, queens with secrets tend to attract strange company.
His gaze lingered on her sleeve, where the note disappeared. Seris let a half-smile show, something tired but unbowed. She didn't answer him. Instead, she stepped away from the door, her dress trailing over sun-warmed stone. For a moment, she stopped beneath the patch of sunlight. She flexed her wrist, testing the freedom, then stared at the sealed door for the last time.
If it wants me back, it'll have to beg.
Her voice didn't tremble. The corridor belonged to her now, not to curses, not to kings. As she strode forward, a final metallic click sounded from behind. She paused, just once, the warmth on her skin steady, the note crumpling in her fist. Whatever waited behind that door, she had chosen her side, and this time, she walked away free. The chains are gone, but Seris's choice still echoes through the palace. Would you have dared to turn your back on the last law? If her defiance or the jester's warning made you wonder what lies beyond, a quick subscribe keeps you close when the next secret breaks loose. Until the next door opens, may you walk your own sunlight-streaked corridors with courage.